Hello again. I think I mentioned before that I lived for some years in the Middle East, chiefly Israel and Egypt, but also at different times Syria and Lebanon as well. During that time, I assumed as a matter of course that I would have to fit in with the customs and traditions of whatever country I happened to be in. When I wished to work in Israel, I had to apply for a work permit, which was of course printed in Hebrew. I had to speak Hebrew at work too, and have days off at Rosh Hashanah and Hanukkah rather than Christmas and Easter. Similarly, when I was in Syria, I couldn't expect any forms which I had to fill in to be printed in English. They were in Arabic. Still less could I expect the citizens of Israel, Egypt, Syria or Lebanon to worry unduly about my religious sensibilities. It would have been a bit rich for me to go and live in an Arab country and then get upset about the cultural manifestations of Islam, for example. If I were to find myself being treated in a hospital in Syria, I could hardly start complaining if the female doctors wore hijabs. In an Israeli hospital or government office, I might reasonably expect to encounter the Star of David or menorah. Um, it would be bonkers for me to say that I didn't like seeing it. I just don't understand how that would work, going to someone else's country, objecting to seeing their religious symbols. All this sounds so straightforward and obvious that people are probably wondering what on earth I'm going on about. It must sound a little pointless to say it at all. If I don't like seeing the Star of David or menorah, then probably Israel's not the place for me to go. The remedy would be for me, of course, to leave the country, not for the Israelis to start rearranging everything to suit my convenience or sort of a handful of other foreigners in their country. What sort of craven and spineless country would abandon their religion in case it offended or annoyed visitors? Where is all this leading, I hear you ask? Well, when I was younger, any form in Britain which required information about one's name had a space marked Christian name. Today in Britain, no form at all has this. Instead, one today has a space for first name. The reason for this is that Britain is historically a Christian country. Many people were christened, hence Christian name, christened name. Some people coming to live or work in Britain from the 60s onwards were not Christians and didn't like seeing the name of Christ in association with their name next to their name. As a result, all government forms, from passports to medical records to applications for benefits, stopped using the word Christian for fear of offending foreigners. The same thing happened with Christmas, which is why many councils and government departments avoid using the word, because that too contains the name of Christ. Much better to wish people a happy holiday or season's greetings. This is precisely the same as my example earlier of the idea of Israel trying to play down the Star of David, or an Arab country uneasy about showing any sign that they are Muslim. It's barking mad. In the National Health Service, nurses are forbidden to wear crosses in case the sight upsets Muslims or atheists. Hospital chapels remove their crosses for the same reason, lest the sight of them upset those using the chapels who are not Christians. I wonder if viewers have noticed this happening. Have they realised that the term Christian name has now been abolished? Do they know that Britain's culture is being dismantled piecemeal and replaced with other cultures and traditions which are being imposed upon the nation without any consultation or consent? What sort of traditions, you ask? Well, Oddly, I saw two news items recently which give us a little insight into some of the new traditions which are replacing the old in this country. Things which 50 years ago would have been regarded as utterly bizarre and alien and are now, unfortunately, par for the course in Britain. I made a video a while back which I was mentioned being able to guess the ethnicity of criminals and sometimes the nationality just from knowing the type and nature of the crime. 10 days ago, an extraordinary incident was reported from the Cornish seaside town of Newquay. Somebody tried to murder a police officer by setting him on fire. I have never in all my life, and my memories of news items go back over 60 years now, never heard anything like this. I won't deny that as a younger man I did have the occasional brush with the law, but I'm pretty sure that I never set a policeman on fire. I'm almost certain I would remember doing such a thing. At once I knew this was something a foreigner had done. I was right. It was a Bulgarian tramp, or rough sleeper as we now call them. Blagovest Haji Gurdjieff. The Haji bit suggests to me that he's Muslim. Haji is a term that can be applied to people that made pilgrimage to Mecca. I suppose this is all a consequence of joining the common market. The other item was even stranger. I don't wear a mask on buses and trains. It doesn't matter. The reasons needn't concern us. From time to time, people give me indignant looks or shake their head disapprovingly or move away from me. What's my reaction? Well, nothing at all, really. I'm making a choice. They're making a choice. If they want to move away from me, that's fine. It's their business. I wonder what people think I would do if I got on a bus and I wasn't wearing a mask and a 63-year-old NHS worker moved away from me because he didn't like the fact that I wasn't wearing a mask. Well, one thing I wouldn't do would be to beat the man mercilessly to the floor of the bus and then stamp on his head 5 times. As soon as I heard this story, I knew at once that the person committing this act of violence was going to be black. Here he is. I'm not, of course, saying that all foreigners set policemen on fire, nor that all black men are violent thugs. What I am saying is that the nature of the country is changing, and not in a good way. While the government and National Health Service are trying to ensure that nobody is offended by hearing the name of Jesus or seeing signs of his worship, they are ignoring a fire raging right outside their window. As old customs are deliberately destroyed, so society changes and anything goes. I hope I don't sound too much like a moany old man, but I sometimes feel like shouting, "Wake up, England!"